actually, there was a lovely young lady. She was 15 years old. She stepped up to a microphone and she sang a little rocker back in 1958, long before many of you were born. And it was Annette Funicello. She had the last of the graduates of the Mouseketeers show, and they decided to give her some rock and roll songs to sing because she still was very, very popular. And so they heard a little ditty my brother Bob and I wrote, and she made a recording of it, and it started the Sherman Brothers, really, with Disney. And I'll sing that in honor of my dear, dear friend, Annette Funicello. Writing on the wall, everybody knows it. I love Paul, tall Paul, tall Paul, tall Paul. He's mine. Chalk on the side, chalk on the side. Initials on a tree, initials on a tree. Everybody knows it, everybody knows it. Paul loves me. Tall Paul with the king-size arms. Tall Paul with the king-size charms. Tall Paul with the king-size kiss. He's my all.
Now, if you're of a certain age, like you had a crush on Annette, and I love those old Annette Funicello record albums that had themes, and they had the novelty songs on them, like, what was it, Pineapple Princess.
Pineapple Princess. Oh yes, now Pineapple Princess was from an album which we worked on called Hawaiianette, one word, clever stuff. Hawaiianette. And actually what we did was we wrote several songs and then we took some standards and made an album package. And it was a big, big seller. And I'll give you a little bit of Hawaiianette. What was it? Pineapple Princess. That's it. I saw a boy on Oahu Island, floating down the bay on a crocodile. He waved at me and he swam ashore, and I knew he'd be mine forevermore. Pineapple Princess, he calls me Pineapple Princess all day as he plays his ukulele on the hill above the bay. Pineapple Princess, I love you, you're the sweetest girl I've seen. Someday we're gonna marry and you'll be my pineapple queen. We had a series of those songs. The next time it was a big hit, so they said, do another one. So we did an Italian-themed album, and it was called Italianette. And then we did a third one about dance music. We did Danceanette. And one day Annette said to us, what are you going to do next? Bassinet? What was it? Kitchenette. She was on the house one day, kitchen, but we didn't do any more of those. That was enough of them.
When you got to kitchenette, you have to end it. Yeah, you're over.
Peanut butter.
So let's talk about another little teenage idol that you worked with. Her name was Haley Mills.
Oh, an incredible actress. And the trouble with that was we had written some songs for a film called The Parent Trap. You might know that. And there was going to be a sequence where Haley and Haley, the two Haleys, would sing a duet together called Let's Get Together. It was kind of a subtle hint for the parents to get together. They were a divorced family. So basically, we had this recording session, and Haley was very hesitant. She was very afraid about doing anything. And I realized that she was not happy. So I said, what's the matter, dear? And she said, well, I'm an actress. I'm not a singer. And I said, but you are a wonderful actress. Well, she says, thank you. I said, why don't you act like you're a singer? She said, I can do that. And she came out with a million seller. Oh, I really think you're swell. You really ring the bell. Ooh-wee. And if you stick with me, nothing could be great to say, hey, alligator, let's get together, yeah, yeah, yeah. Why don't you and I come by? Let's get together. What do you say? We could have why don't we make a scene? Let's get together, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you didn't have to write 2 songs for Haley, just one.
She sang, you saw the picture, she sang both parts.
Yeah.
She just split herself in half. I don't know how they do it. Disney has this magical trick they can do.
Well, now, speaking of novelty songs, you wrote for Annette those novelty songs, and then you would get weird, strange assignments. Like you had an assignment to write a song about color.
Oh, yes, yes, indeed. Walt was going to do something very daring. Yeah, you saw that, didn't you?
They see all of this coming, Richard.
It's my family, I told you. But actually, Walt was going to do something very daring. Television back in 1961 was pretty much all black and white. There was no color television. But Walt was going to switch from ABC to CBS, or to NBC, that's it. And he was going to come up with a whole series of color telecasts, color shows. And he gave us the assignment of writing a song about color. That's a weird assignment. You know, you can write about a lot of things, but just color. So we came up with the song called The Wonderful World of Color. And it became the actual theme song of the show for many, many years. And it went something, it was a whole male choir, mixed choir sang it. And it went like this. Color, color, color. The world is a carousel of color. Wonderful, wonderful color. The blue rolling sea, the red summer rose, the gold morning sun in the sky, the glorious vision of a rainbow, the bright autumn leaves on the ground. There's beauty untold that's ours to behold in a wonderful world of color, color, color.
Now, does that song bring back memories of Sunday nights at 7 o'clock? Now, did you have, this is a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Back in, what was that, 61?
60.
Something like that? Could you imagine that almost 50 years later, it would be the theme song of a spectacular show at Disneyland?
Who'd have thunk it? It's amazing. No, I feel very thrilled about so many things that we've done at Disney. They became timeless because the Disney magic is on them. And like many times, people write songs for projects, shows, movies, and they're forgotten. They're used once and never again. But with Disney, it stays. It keeps going back and back and back. And that's one of the great blessings of writing for Disney. It really is.
Now, we were talking about these novelty songs and strange assignments. One time, you got an assignment to tell the story of something being ugly.
Oh, yeah. There's a film we did for Disney called The Summer Magic. Summer Magic. You know the film. And it starred Haley Mills and a wonderful folk singer named Burl Ives, a great actor and singer. And I've been a great fan of Burl Ives. He's a great performer. And we came up with a little idea for him. He was going to sing a song called The Ugly Bug Ball. And it was a cute idea. It was kind of ragtime. It gave us a chance to write a different style than we usually wrote. And it was kind of marvelous. And Bob and I were tickled, except one day Walt said to us, you know, I don't like the word ugly. It's a negative word, and I think it sets me off. I'm not too happy. It's not the song, I just don't like the word ugly. And we were really kind of worried about it, and Bob came up, my brother, thank God, he came up with it. He said, Walt, a rhinoceros, a guy rhinoceros, looks at a girl rhinoceros and says, she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. You know, and Walt said, well, if we can get that into the script. So basically what happened, Sally Benson, who was the script writer, wrote something of that into it, so we get to do Ugly Bug Ball. And I love that song, so I'm going to play that for you now. It's in ragtime. Once a lonely caterpillar sat and cried to a sympathetic being by his side. I've got nobody to hug, I'm such an ugly bug. Then a spider and a dragonfly reply, if you're serious and want to win a prize, come along with us to the glorious annual ugly bug. Come on, let's crawl to the ugly bug ball, and the happy time we'll have there, one and all. Then our caterpillar saw a pretty queen. She was beautiful in yellow, black, and green. He said, would you care to dance? That dancing led to romance. Then she sat upon his caterpillar knees, and he gave his caterpillar queen a squeeze. Soon they'll honeymoon, build a big cocoon, thanks to the ugly bug ball. Come on, let's crawl, got to crawl, got to crawl to the ugly bug ball, to the ball, and a happy time we'll have there. One and all at the annual ugly bug ball.
Now, there's a special little bear that Walter Brady,
Oh, yes,
you have a great affection for.
I love this little guy. Actually, we were given a wonderful assignment. An English author by the name of A.A. Milne. Some incredible, delightful stories with wonderful characters, all about a little stuffed teddy bear and his friends. And he wrote this for his little boy, Christopher Robin. And we had the great honor of being asked to write the music for that original Winnie the Pooh series. And so I'll play you the title song, which I just love. Deep in the 100-acre wood, where Christopher Robin plays, you'll find the enchanted neighborhood of Christopher's childhood days. A donkey named Eeyore is his friend, and Kangaroo and Little Roo. There's Rabbit and Piglet, and there's Owl, but most of all, Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, tubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff. He's Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. Cubby. Willie. Thank you, Willie. Winnie the Pooh, tubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff. He's Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, Willie nilly, silly old bear.
Did you catch everybody singing, not only singing along, but as you were doing Winnie the heads were going right?
I think you mistaken me because I blacked out on that line. Willie nilly, silly old bear. That's a clever line.
I know a genius that came up with that.
Lane Bob, I think, that time. I didn't write that one. I wrote the other one. I wrote Tubby Little Cubby old stuff. Then he wrote Willie nilly, silly old bear. We always split the copyrights that way.
Oh, the secret is out. The secret's
We
out.
always did collaborate on words and music. Bob and I would sit there and tough it out together. And after all the blood was let, we'd have a song.
So, one of my favorite segments of one of the Pooh featurettes is when Pooh does his stoutness exercises.
Oh, stoutness exercise, right. Well, actually, he exercises for different reasons than you or I. We want to lose a few pounds, tone up the muscles. Not Pooh. He has his own reasons. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up. When I up, down, and touch the ground, it puts me in the mood. Up, down, and touch the ground, in the mood for food. When I up, down, and touch the ground, I think of things to chew, like honey, milk, chocolate. With a hefty, happy appetite, I'm a hefty, happy Pooh.
next character we want to talk about, you have been described as being just like this character.
Me?
Yes, you.
A stuffed tiger? Everybody knows that a stuffed tiger isn't a tiger.
Well, what is it?
What is he? These tigers are wonderful things. Their tops are made out of rubber. Their bodies are made out of spring. They're bouncy, 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 fun, 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 fun. But the most wonderful thing about tigers is tigers are wonderful fellas. Tigers are awfully sweet, and everyone else is jealous. And that's why I repeat and repeat the wonderful thing about tigers. These tigers are marvelous chaps. They're loaded with vim and vigor. They love to leap in your laps. They're bumpy, jumpy, clumpy, bumpy, fun, 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 fun. But the most wonderful thing about tigers is I'm the only one. I'm the only one.
So, you know, tigers, bouncy, flouncy, all of that.
Bouncy, flouncy,
Bouncy, flouncy. And you're pretty bouncy, flouncy, too.
Oh.
And what birthday did you just celebrate?
I just celebrated my 85th birthday.
Tigers doing great. Now, there was another film that you did that I know is one of your personal favorites, and that would be The Jungle Book.
Oh, I love it.
And recently, that film has been turned into a stage show, a highly acclaimed stage show.
Oh, I'm very excited.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, Jungle Book was a great assignment because, see, Rudyard Kipling, the great English author, had written a marvelous book called Jungle Book, and it was a very serious, dark story. It had a lot of mysterious things in it and grisly things that took place in the jungle. And Walt fell in love with the storyline, but he didn't like the tone, the attitude of it. And originally there was a series of entire screenplay created for it, and Walt rejected it out of hand. He didn't like it, but he wanted to do the story. So he asked several of us to come into his office one morning, and I remember there were story men there with directors and background people and all, and then Bob and I were the songwriters on the staff, so we were there, of course. And he said, how many of you fellows have read Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book? And not a hand was raised. It was like being in school and you didn't do the assignment. You couldn't raise your hand. And he said, great, I'm glad you didn't do that because I don't want you to read that book. I want to tell you the story. And he did. The greatest storyteller of the last century by far was Walt Disney himself. He told the story. He told us that morning how he wanted to see Jungle Book, and he became the different characters. He became Baloo the bear, he became the king of the apes, and he became all these wonderful characters. And all of a sudden, we were nuts about this story. We had to tell it right. And so, one of the assignments, he said, take the scariest, grimmest story and have fun with it.
Well, Richard, one of the things that we talked about backstage, actually, you were going on and on and on about how much you love the stage show, this new stage show, The Jungle Book.
It's just wonderful. They've taken the score, the original score, plus Terry Gilkison's song, which I always take bows for, and I didn't write, and that's The Bare Necessities. It's a great song. The one song we didn't write, but all the rest of the songs were Bob's and mine. And that score, plus new additional songs that Bob and I had written for a sequel, plus a few other things, are fattened out into this big stage production. And it looks so great. They're a wonderful live cast, and I'm very excited about it. It'll be touring. I'm sure it'll be coming to the East.
But we were talking, you kind of focused on the Vultures song.
Oh,
it was one of your favorite songs in the film, and they do it in the play as well.
Yeah, now there we were assigned to do a song that these vultures, vultures, they wait till something's dead, then they eat them, they eat the carrion, and it's kind of a grisly thing, so we decided, let's not do that kind of vultures. We'll have friendly vultures. We'll have vultures that want to be nice. And there's a little entendre in it. We did it as a barbershop quartet. So you've got to imagine a barbershop quartet with slightly Liverpudlian accents singing this thing. When you're alone, who comes around to pluck you up when you are down? And when you're outside looking in, who's there to open the door? That's what friends are for, and who's always eager to extend a friendly claw. That's what friends are for, and when we're lost in dire need, who's at your side? At lightning speed, we're friends with every creature coming down the pike. In fact, we've never met an animal we didn't like. Didn't like, you got it. So you can see friends in need, and friends in need are friends indeed. We'll keep you safe in the jungle forevermore. That's what friends are for.
Bob really worked with some of the show business greats, two of them being Louis Prima, the great jazz man, and Phil Harris.
That's right, two great performers.
Now tell us about the recording session for the terrific song "I Want to Be Like You."
Oh,
how'd that go?
Well, that was a wonderful thing. Actually, Bob and I had written this song, "The King of the Apes." We got the idea for him to be the king of the swingers because we were discussing what does an ape really do. Well, he grunts, he goes, like that a lot, and he also swings in a tree. And I remember sitting there, we were talking about what are we going to write for this guy? And as soon as the word swings in a tree came out, we said, he's the king of the swingers, not just the king of the apes, the king of the swingers, and his marauding monkey friends, they're his band. So we really got the thing, and then we cast it with Louis Prima and Sam Butera, the witnesses, this great group of jazz band, and they were marvelous. And then Phil Harris played Baloo, and so we said we'll have Baloo and the King of the Apes sing together. And we never could get the two of them together. So that's the story moment. So actually what happened was we recorded just Louis Prima and Sam Butera filled in one place where they're doing the scat singing. That's the double talk sound words. And Scooby-Doo, Rebound, that kind of thing. And we just did the aping of it, and then that was just Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo. And Phil Harris, about 4 months later, when he finally got into the studio, was listening to this, I can't sing that, that's not my kind of words, I can't do that. Willie Ryderman, our director, came out and said, Phil, look, do what you want to do, but just answer, He says, oh, I'll do that. And it became the most hilarious thing you've ever heard. So they're having a conversation in double talk. And I can't do all of that, but I'll give you an idea of what the song sounded like. Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me. Now I want to be a man cub and stroll right into town and be just like the other men. I'm tired of monkeying around and say, ooh, I want to be like you. I want to walk like you, talk like you too. You see it's true, and ain't like me. Can't learn to be human too. I'll eat your mannerisms, we'll be a set of twins. No one will know where man comes and orangutan begins. And when I eat bananas, I won't be alone with my feet, cause I'll become a man cub and get some of their keep. Say, ooh, I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you and talk like you too. You see, it's true, shoo-doo-doo, and ain't like me, scoo-doo-doo-doo, can learn to be human too. Can learn to be human too. One more time. Can learn to be human too. I wanna be like you.
Some of us fumble getting a sentence out, and then he does this. Another great that you worked with was the great French song stylist Maurice Chevalier.
Oh, yeah.
And the Aristocats, on the Aristocats.
Right, actually, Maurice Chevalier was the #1 French performer in the world. He was world famous. And I go history with that. My father was a songwriter, and he wrote big hits for Maurice Chevalier back in the 30s. He had a big hit called Living in the Sunlight, Loving in the Moonlight. That was my daddy's song. And I grew up listening to records of Maurice Chevalier. I used to love the sound of his voice and his personality. And then one day we got a chance with Walt to write some songs for his pictures, and we did The Search of the Castaways, The Monkeys Go Home. We wrote special songs for those pictures. And then came the Aristocats. By this time, this was like early 1971, Maurice had retired. He was getting up there, and he wasn't going to do any more. And our director of the film, Wooly Ryderman, actually, was the one that said, Dick, you do that imitation of Chevalier. Why don't you make a demo of the way he sings it, and we'll send it to him. Maybe he'll come out of retirement for this purpose. And I said, I can't do an imitation for Chevalier to hear. He says, look, listen to me, do it that way, it'll be good. So I said, okay. So I'll give you a little sample of what I did for the Aristocats song, and I'll tell you the results afterwards, okay? It's the race, he's the finest in Paris. Each possess the finest pedigree. To each gets to the others, tip their hats. Naturally, the aristocrats. That's all I'm going to do for you. We did the whole song, all the verses and all, and sent it off to Chevalier. Sure enough, he came out of retirement and he sang the main title and the end title of the song in English and French. It was wonderful. My wife and I happened to be in Paris about 3.5, 4 months after he recorded the song. And we were just coming out of a hotel, and there he was. Maurice and some people, and I said, Maurice, Richard Sherman, remember? Oh, yes, I remember you, of course. I said, well, my brother Bob and I are so thrilled that you did this recording, and it sounds so great and everything. Everybody in the studio is excited about it. And he said, well, thank you. He says, I love Walt Disney, and I did this for Walt Disney, and it's a very nice song. I said, well, thank you so much. And he said, I said, but there's one thing that bothers me. I did this terrible, thick, phony French accent on the album, on the record, and I apologize for that. He looked me right in the eye and said, accent? I heard no accent.
I like that little bump you just did. Well, now, how many of you grew up on the film Bedknobs and Broomsticks? There's a song in that score that's very special to you. And tell us, and it was nominated for an Oscar. Tell us about that.
We were at the studio, and Walt had passed on. We were back. We had come back into the studio after being away for a while, and we were asked to do some more songs for Bedknobs. They were about to shoot the film, and they needed a couple of sequences. And there was one place where a song was needed for the heroine, Eglantine Price, to sing about a little Doubting Thomas, a little boy who didn't believe in magic, he didn't believe in anything, he was very disenchanted with life. And we were trying to think of what are we going to write about? And we were saying, Walt isn't here anymore, and we used to always bounce our songs off of Walt first and play them for him, and then he'd say, yeah, that'll work. That was our big praise. Yep, that'll work. And then we'd have it in film. But in this case, we didn't have any Walt Disney to tell us. And so I remember it was one of us said, well, we got to start depending on ourselves, because we got to believe in ourselves. It's as simple as that. I said, this little boy was going through the age of not believing. Oh, yeah, but once you start believing in yourself, then you can do things. So we wrote this little song, and I'm very fond of it. When you rush around in hopeless circles, searching everywhere for something true, you're at the age of not believing when all the make-believe is through. When you set aside your childhood heroes and your dreams of rust upon a shelf, you're at the age of not believing, and worst of all, you ever knew, until at last you start believing there's something wonderful, truly wonderful in you.
Talk about the Disney parks a little bit.
The Disney parks, I've heard of those. I think we're in one of them right now.
And I want you to tell them the story. You've told me this before. There was a night that you and Elizabeth, your wife Elizabeth, happened to be at Disneyland. Tell us that story.
It's a very touching story. Bob and I have been on the staff for about 3 years, and we had a pass. We could get into Disneyland anytime we wanted. And my wife Elizabeth and I were at the park one night, very late, and we had this most wonderful day. We'd done all the rides, and it was just great. And at the end of the day, we just lingered on Main Street just before going out the old exit when we used to go out. The park lot was back there, and we saw a singular figure, practically empty park, and one figure was just walking down the road, looking into the windows of the stores. And I said, "Well, that's Walt. Let's tell him how much fun we had tonight." So we waited for him to come, and he says, "Oh, Dick, Elizabeth." And we were talking for a minute, and I said, "Well, we just want you to know we had the most wonderful day today. It was just incredible." And at the end, when Tinkerbell was flying across the sky, and the music was playing, and the skyrockets were going off, I just started to cry like a baby. It was just happy tears, but they were just coming out of my eyes. And he said, "You know, I do it every time." And I just thought, right there, station there. And I dearly remember that because he just loved the park. He loved the things in it. He loved what it symbolized. He loved what it meant. You know, there are happy endings. There's a good world out there. Nice, positive things. He was a very positive man.
This year happens to be the 50th anniversary of the very first song you wrote for Disney parks.
Walt had a hobby, and we thought it was a hobby. He had a thing he was very proud of, and he used to bring VIPs down to one of the sound stages. And in the corner of this sound stage was like a jungle room. And they would come in and they would see this thing that was going on. It was called audio animatronics. You know about them now, but not 50 years ago. And people would see orchids singing and birds, you know, standing on perches singing, and tiki torches going hugga bugga, hugga bugga, and all this everyone waiting. And they would see this show that they were creating for the Enchanted Tiki Room, and they would say, "It's great, Walt. What the heck is it?" You know, that's what they say. And so we were called down one day to this room, and we were sitting on bridge chairs. I remember that. And the show started, and down came this cascade of birds singing. Let's all sing like the birds sing. And we were listening to this thing. And at the end, when the rain stopped and everybody was happy again, we said, "Walt, it's great. What is it?" And he looked right at us and said, "You guys are going to write me a song that's going to explain all this." And so we said, "Yeah, okay, well, you have to believe. We're going to write lyrics. You have to believe. It's too bad you don't have a parrot." He thought for about a half a second. He said, "We won't have one parrot. We'll have 4 parrots. We'll have a Dutch parrot. We'll have a German parrot. We'll have a Spanish parrot." He was going through a whole conception. And he said, "What kind of a song are you going to write?" So we looked around. It was kind of a tropical room, or a tropical song, calypso. So he said, "Yes, calypso. And what's it going to be called?" Well, Enchanted Tiki Room was a bit of a nothing title. It's a good title for the place, but it's a song title, no. But tiki is a great word, and if you're a songwriter and you hear words like tiki, it's kind of good. So I remember thinking, tiki, 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 that's a great sound, tiki, tiki, tiki. How about we call it the Tiki, Tiki, Tiki Room? He says, "That's it, when am I going to have the song? I need it." We wrote the following songs we've been playing now for 50 years.
Oh, they know this song. I'm sure they'll sing along.
I wish you would. to a tropical hideaway. You lucky people, you. If we weren't, we should have started right away. In New York, everybody in the tiki room, in the tiki room. All the birds sing and the flowers bloom. That's the explanation.
Now this next song you did many years later, but you always refer to it as the Song of the Imagineers, and it's from an attraction called Journey into Imagination.
Audio animatronics that come of age, they really were doing incredible things, and Tony Baxter created this wonderful model. One of our latest legends, who just today got made a legend, and is going to have a window on Main Street. And anyhow, he was creating this journey into imagination. And he had a fellow called the Dream Finder and a little friend of his called Figment. Now, Figment is a figment of imagination. And we were asked to write a song that would sort of explain what this ride was going to be, this wonderful journey into imagination. And it now is like the Imagineers song, because we all have imaginations. And that's what it's all about. It takes one little spark of imagination to make wonderful things happen. And it starts like this. One little spark of inspiration is at the heart of all creation, right at the start of everything that's new. One little spark lights up for you. Imagination. A dream can be a dream come true with just that spark from me and you.
That I know is a favorite of Marty Sklar's, wherever he might be. And I think, why don't you just play this, because I think everybody will recognize this as well.
Just an ordinary day, all at once you're on your way to a place that cannot be. No one knows what turns the key. You have found 1,000 eyes, whirling images arise. For a moment they are clear, in a flash they disappear. Magic journeys, mystic flights, on the wings of unexpected sounds and sights. Magic journeys, are they real? What we think or sense or feel, neither dreaming nor pretending, no beginning and no ending.
About the Tiki Room having a 50th anniversary, and there's another big anniversary next year.
Oh, yeah, pictures.
So, Richard, I mean, good grief, 50 years ago.
I looked like Jason Schwartzman then.
Well, now let's talk about that. Now you have an involvement in Saving Mr. Banks.
Oh yes, it's a very exciting movie.
And it must have been an odd experience to see your life being portrayed up on the screen by Jason Schwartzman, who plays Bob, I believe.
No,
Jason plays you, and BJ Novak
plays
plays Bob. How did that feel?
Well, it was eerie. It was kind of marvelous, too, because they're reenacting a very key moment in our lives when this rather difficult lady who had created Mary Poppins, she was a brilliant writer, Miss Pamela Travers, Mrs. Pamela Travers, came to the studio. And it's quite a tug of war between Walt Disney, who wanted to make the movie, and Mrs. Travers, who didn't want anybody touching her work. And it was something. Bob and I were caught in the middle of this thing, really. And Don McGrady, the writer, with the three of us had concocted a story, a way of telling her wonderful character, giving her character a purpose, because her stories never really explained anything. Just like Mary Poppins says, I never explained anything. And Mrs. Travers never explained why the stories were there. But we sort of pieced together 6 stories, and we made that into one story. And we had to use Mr. Banks as the foil to have the reason why Mary Poppins come. Mr. Banks is too busy at the bank. And I'm giving away too much of the story, but you'll see it.
Yeah.
You'll see it.
So one of the keynote songs for Mary Poppins is a song called A Spoonful of Sugar.
Right?
And in the film, she sings it with a little bird,
Right.
and she sings it again with herself in the mirror.
Right.
And I think on this song, you might need a little help. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jason Schwartzman and B.G. Novak.
You guys are really smart. You know, I saw them this morning. They were in a presentation, and they did a great job, by the way. Guys, really. But the thing is that when they did the presentation, I saw them afterwards, and they said, well, are you going to be here tonight? Because we're doing, Alan and I are doing this concert. And they said, no, unfortunately, we're tied up. And I felt so bad. We never rehearsed it. This is completely, oh my goodness. So what are we going to do?
Yeah, I think we should do spoonful of sugar.
You know that one.
I know it. You know it? If anyone else knows it, feel free to chime in with some chorus.
You need help, huh? In every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun and snap the jobs again. And every task you undertake becomes a piece of cake, a lark, a spree. It's very clear to see that a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, medicine go down, medicine go down. Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down in the most delightful way. I like this so much, I want to do another verse, and you guys help again. And I love the accompaniment in the audience, that's great. A robin feathering his nest has very little time to rest while gathering his bits of twine and twig. Though quite intent in his pursuit, he has a merry tune to toot. He knows a song will move the job along. For a spoonful of sugar, the medicine go down, the medicine go down, medicine go down. Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down in the most delightful way. Wait till you see these fellows in the show. The movie is wonderful. They do a good job.
So that was a surprise.
I used to be like that.
Yes. You didn't know about that, did you?
No, I didn't have any idea.
He didn't know about that. Honest. Just trying to keep the show fresh.
Oh, my goodness, that was wonderful. A nice surprise. That was wonderful.
Well, let's jump into your Oscar-winning song, Chim Chim Choo.
I must say, real briefly, I mentioned the name Don McGrady. Don McGrady was an artist writer. And one day, Bob and I walked into his office. We were working on Poppins. And there was a picture in the corner one of his storyboards, and it was just a picture of a chimney sweep walking down Cherry Tree Lane, whistling and holding his brushes over his shoulder. And we said, what is that? He said, well, in one of the chapters, there's a thing where Mary Poppins and the children are there, and she shakes hands with the sweep, and the children say, you got yourself dirty. She says, oh no, it's lovely to shake the sweep. And we said, wow, and as an idea for a song, wow, you get better ideas, never. This was a great idea, so we got to write a song about that. And out came this little chimney sweep song, and became very near and dear to us because it won the Academy Award. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiree, a sweetness as lucky can be. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiroo, good luck will rub off when I shake hands with you. Or blow me a kiss, and that's lucky too. Now as the ladder of life has been strung, you may think the sweep's on the bottommost rung, though I spends me time in the ashes and smoke. In this whole wide world, there's no happier up with them, smoke is all billored and curled. Between pavement and stars, that's the chimney sweep's world. When there's hardly no day and hardly no night, there's things enough in shadows and halfway in light. On the rooftops of London, cool water side. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chimney. When you're with a sweep, you're in black company. Nowhere is there a more happier crew than them what sings chim chim chiree chim chiree. Chim chimney, chim chim chiree chim chiree.
Richard, now let's talk about a song that I know is very near and dear to you. Feed the Birds.
Oh, there are many reasons why this is very near and dear to me, but I think the most important reason is because of the fact that it's no secret. I mean, we love Walt Disney very much, and we were very fond of him as a human being, aside from being a great boss. And when we first played our ideas for Mary Poppins for Walt Disney, we played this song among a couple of other things that we'd written that we thought would work nicely for the picture. And we did a lot of talking that day. I remember at the end of this meeting, a long meeting, he said, play me that Bird Lady song again. So I played it again. And he said, that's the key to the whole story, isn't it? He said, that's right, Walt, that's it. And that's the day he put us under contract. So that means a lot to me. That was the day that he put us under contract to him. And 10 greatest years of my life, working for Walt Disney. Of course, we've been connected ever since. But this is his song. And I used to go to his office every once in a while. Bob and I on Friday would get a call. We'd come down there and we'd talk about what we were working on, of course. He knew what we were working on, but he still talked to us about it. And then he'd look out the north window and he'd say, of his office, and he'd say, play it. And I played it for him. Early each day to the steps of St. Paul's, the little old girl woman comes. In her own special way, to the people she calls, come buy my bags full of crumbs. Come feed the little birds, show them you care, and you'll be glad if you do. Their young ones are hungry, their nests are so bare. All it takes is tuppence from you. Feed the birds, tuppence a bag. Tuppence, tuppence, tuppence a bag. Feed the birds, that's what she cries, while overhead her birds fill the skies. The saints and apostles Though her words are simple and few, listen, listen, she's calling to you. Feed the birds, tuppence a bag, tuppence, tuppence, tuppence a bag.
Well, we could tell them what happened to us when we did that at Disneyland.
Oh, well, let's talk about that. Walt's 100th birthday, it's about 12 years ago. You had produced a show, and we had a lot of Imagineers who came out and did speeches and talked about the projects and things that they created. In the honor of Walt, we were dedicating the wonderful statue by Blaine Gibson of Walt and Mickey. Is that up there?
It's coming up.
Oh, there's a picture where it's the beautiful partner statue. And we were dedicating it, and I remember I was asked to do songs that were written for the park. Some of the songs were written for the park. So I played several things. And at one point, and there were 2,000 people in the street that day, in Main Street. And I was up on a riser with a white piano. And at one point, I turned around, and there was Walt and Mickey right behind me. I said, folks, this next song is not for you. It's really, I'm doing it for Walt. This is his song, and I just felt like I played it for him. And I proceeded to play Feed the Birds. And I got to the very end of it, where just tuppence with a little run on pianos. And one bird out of a cloud in the sky comes swooping right down over where I was playing the piano. Right, and then off again. And there was an intake of breath. 2,000 people went, and then there was thunderous applause and everything. And I said, what was the gimmick? What happened? I didn't know there was a bird that came through. And I came backstage afterwards and I said to Tim, what happened? And you told me.
I said, Walt visited us.
Walt visited us, and I thought that was a great moment. That happened until I saw the videotape. And there it was, one bird flew down out of the sky. And one time you told the story, you said the bird sat on the piano and winked at me. And I said, that's going a little far. But he did fly over, he really did. And I was with Walt as he's with all of us here. That's true.
By playing one of Walt's favorite songs, and it's a song that you wrote for Walt for an attraction that shows off Walt's great optimism.
Oh,
so
right.
let's close with that.
He was the futurist of all time, and we did a song for an attraction called Carousel of Progress. But it goes something like this. There's a great big beautiful tomorrow, shining at the end of the day. And tomorrow, just a dream away. Man has a dream, and that's the star. He follows his dream with one heart. And when it becomes a reality, it's a dream come true for you and me. So there's a great big beautiful tomorrow, shining at the end of every day. There's a great big beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away. But I'd like to just conclude with one song that kind of describes the great exuberance that I feel about being here, being part of this wonderful, wonderful organization, being part of your lives. And my brother Bob and I both thank you from the bottom of our hearts. My brother's watching from upstairs, making sure I don't make any mistakes. This kind of describes the way we feel about the whole event. Keep because I was afraid to speak when I was just he followed me, he told me I was bad. But then when I run the world, say you know, this is how it goes. It's the antidote. Even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious. You say the line that the one simply goes is supercalifragilistic. It's the antidote. I travel around the world and everywhere I went, I use the word folks and say, there goes another tip. When Dukes and Maharajas pass the time of day with me, I say it's the same word and the Osprey is the tea. Can anybody say it backwards? Can anybody say it backwards? Say it, let's do it. I heard it's Doja Sally extheistic, fragicalorupus. If you can't say it, go to my tongue. So when the cat is back your tongue, there's no need for dismay. Just summon up this word, and then you've got a lot to say. But use it carefully, or it can change your life. One night I said it to me girl, and now me girls me wife. She's supercalifragilistic, expialidocious, supercalifragilistic, expialidocious. Doja Sally extheistic, fragicalorupus, supercalifragilistic.